Hey, good morning. We are here for the August 8th, 2024 policy committee meeting. I am present along with Matt Bergeron, and McCurry, and Christine, I forget their last name. Carpenter, in the district communications support. So thanks for being here. Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know our agenda included required notifications
Yes.
to parents, students, posted on the website, etc. So I'll let you chime in.
Yeah. So for new people, Matt, to the committee, we started doing audits of our policies a couple years back, and we've had a very strong working policy committee due to the chairs that have been here. Tricia and Rachel both. I feel like this committee is really dove in. Just a little bit of background really quick for Christine too. The policy document that we work off and all the policies were adopted in 2003. That's when the board took it. So some of the policies haven't been revisited in roughly 20 years and some haven't. So over time, processes and procedures kind of lapse on that. And so things have changed. So one of the things that we've been doing is compiling a list of notifications, how they're supposed to be notified, the yearly ones, what ones are supposed to be reviewed yearly. And as we have found, it seems like almost every time we do it, we find another one that's supposed to be up. So we're trying to find a way to be in compliance and work through those things. The code of conduct is one. The extracurricular code of conduct is something that we want to have up and running. We created a board resolution about safe gun storage. That's one that has to go in. That's in the handbook now. So things like that are there, but there's also the policy ones. NISBA sent out, and I believe I shared a listing of documents that have to be done and how, their compliance aspects of it. And also communications has worked on this. So instead of us reinventing the wheel and trying to figure out how to do this on our own, we have people who have done this in multiple districts and multiple places who have great ideas, communications, and they've been working on this. So I'm going to lead it into now Christine to kind of walk us through some of the ideas that communications is going to help us with.
Super. Thank you all. So this is the hair shirt that we wear in the summer as annual notification so that you are all in compliance. And I am just reading them, so you're gonna have to read me a bit because I'm just learning you and what we have and what we don't have. Diane, I will preface this all by saying Diane is taking the yeoman's work of doing the annual notifications that we know need to be on the website or updated for 24-25. And they're in the works if anything needs to be updated. So that's on your policies section of the website. It looks pretty robust and it looks pretty complete to me at this point. That being said, as Frank mentioned, we have a separate document that came from NISBA. Is that correct? And I actually just quickly went through, and when we have these kinds of checklists, they often will tell us how they're required to be distributed, and anywhere that it said specifically that needed to be on the website, I did a quick search to see what's there and what isn't. I did note that AIS eligibility, I couldn't find easily. It doesn't mean that it's not there, but it might mean that we want to put it front and center since it's specifically named in this particular document, and alphabetically it's first. So APPR,
Can you tell me the policy number on that?
I don't, I'm sorry, please, 4325.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then your APPR, I did not find, I did notice that was on the web. And so if we jump forward, because I had a lot of Christine questions for you about how some of this other information is distributed, but moving way
and that's
down.
kind of some of our problems as well as how we distribute it. I just want to kind of clarify a couple of things really quick.
Please.
Christine's here once a week. So Diane is here twice a week. So we have a team of communication specialists. So that's why when Christine said Diane's taking a bunch, they divvy out some of the work that's on it.
Absolutely.
So
This will be a divide and.
any questions before we dig in a little bit further?
Trying to find the email where you attached the documents that Christine has in front of her.
Okay.
I just want to. Yep. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. I'm glad you have something in front of you to refer to. Moving
I can
way
get it up.
down the list, the next one where it was explicitly stated that it needed to be on the website is your non-discrimination policy, which you do in fact have. That is very clear. That stated in multiple places. Your parents' Bill of Rights on student data and privacy and protection, is that FERPA? Is that all under the House of FERPA? Frank? Or it's 5550, it said law 2D.
It's at Law 2D is the PPI, which is underneath our computer policy. So it
Okay.
should, so it all aligns with FERPA, but I believe there's a separate policy underneath
I
that.
do too.
Yep.
I believe, I've seen it actually clearly stated as.
Pretty sure we worked
LL2D.
at, I'm pretty sure we have that, and I
I'll
remember
dig
working
for
on it.
I'll dig for it.
I feel like that's one that we spent some time on.
FERPA is very, very much at the top of that policy space. So if we needed to move it up so that it's more visible, it probably is a cut and paste on that. Promotion and placement, it's stated that that needs to be on your website or distributed. I didn't dig into the handbooks or the counseling section, but, that's 4750. And, if it needs to be clearly stated on the website, I did not find it.
So did it say either in the handbook?
Or
Okay,
it says website or distribute, which is
Okay.
leading me to believe it's probably because it seems like it would fit
so,
well in a handbook. So
So-
that may be where it is.
and that's the other thing that we're now working on. So I think you can tell is that we've been trying to streamline over the past 6 months of how our communication is going to work and how we kind of get information out. Every building principal now has a handbook. We have our guidance documents that are also going out as well. So these things should be in those areas. So if we're finding a lacking of them on one point, we're going to make sure that we put them in the other. So that way they go into the student handbook. Christine and I were talking this morning. A lot of districts utilize their student handbook for some of these student-based announcements and ones that have to be out there. They go into the handbook and they just basically load them in there.
And in the policy meetings in the past, we talked about doing kind of like a annual or biannual code review with students.
They're doing that actually in the very first weeks of school.
So,
Yep.
so once the handbooks are finalized, they'll be sort of presented to students in assemblies.
Yep.
Or whatever the setting is. So
Everyone has them.
understands
Yep.
what's expected of them.
And then these policies, a lot of times these policies go in, they're there, they're handed out, they're a notice of disbursement and with the handbooks.
I had just one question about sets. So for some of these, the requirement is to notify parents, guardians, and students who are at least 18 years old. I'm not sure if we do that or if we do that.
Which one is that?
Like FERPA, for example, is annually, and the audience includes parents, guardians, students who are at least 18. Do we have a process for identifying students who are 18 and making sure they receive?
So our process is the blanket process that we're working on. So making sure that you send out a blanket notification to all saying that, because then you're not just targeting the 18 or older, you're saying everybody. So that's what we're working on, making sure that we have all those. So the website notification, the student handbook that goes out, because they all get it in their student handbooks.
Right.
So that would be there. Also, we're working on some type of quick link on the website to be able to house some of this information, to also do twofold, to teach people how to use the website. So we're working on like kind of a yearly kind of announcement to people saying, here's our website, here's how it works, here's the specific components of how to find specific things in the website. And along with that, trying to tie in some of this policy component. So it's definitely a larger undertaking than what we've done in the past.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of, in terms of policy committee, I know as we've reviewed these policies, we've determined whether they need to be added to a notification list. And kind of tried to keep that list updated. I think you've at this point made a lot of.
All of those are on there. Yeah, I think all those notification lists are on there. We're just gonna I think we have them all.
Yeah, well, I mean, the list is very complete, whether it's everything, I haven't,
I'm pretty sure it is.
I can't do that research.
I've done a lot of what everything we talked about, I believe we have on here that I've captured.
Okay, and then, I mean, between, it's like the list
Yeah.
that you and Christine and others have compiled, and then
the NISBA list and cross-referencing those, I think we're in a good spot in terms of making sure that we are complying.
Mhm.
And then for policy committee, I think as we review additional policies or new policies that come up because of changes to state law requirements, we'll just have to make sure we flag for ourselves to add them to the list. And make sure we check the boxes in terms of who and how and when. Right?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that to me, I think that's kind of, we have a process now, there's procedures, we've done all of the compiling of the data. We have people helping us now organize and making sure that we're doing this on a yearly basis. I think we've really checked the boxes on all the requirement components.
Yeah, I mean, I would love, this is conversation for another day, but I would love to see us get to the point where we distribute these policies electronically through a portal. And then parents and students who need to see them acknowledge them online. Like, I think that's ideal rather than sending home a sheet of paper where you gotta sign your name 16 times to say that you've read each of the policies. I think that would be kind of like where we aspire to be in the notification process. I don't know if you've thought about that, but I think it probably, I mean, I know it can be done because I've done it in other settings, but I think that's where I would love to see us get to, because I think that would be much easier. Like, hey, parents, hey, students, here's your required notifications. Log into the portal, acknowledge them,
What are you thinking?
and then they're done.
I think it's clean. I think that then you would have a record of everybody acknowledging that they at least checked your box.
At least check them out, right?
But
That's on you.
but you gave them the opportunity to review everything, and it would live collectively in one place. I think it would make these kinds of gut checks easier, so we could then say, and we know where all of these resources live. We've done our work of compiling that we know what folks need to have in front of them annually. May I ask a question about how the policy committee works in terms of reviewing? Are you doing those in one fell swoop, or are you doing them on a schedule so that they happen throughout the year?
We did have a meet, so this is all kind of new. I think over the last few years, policy has made a lot of leaps and bounds in terms of being more organized and making sure we're doing some of these required annual reviews of policies. Code of conduct put aside, I think we've always done an annual review hearing and followed the law on that. But some of these other ones that have propped up, I think we're now doing like an annual process in the spring. At least that's my recollection of the last few years is we've done this in the spring when we know we need to finalize them before the next, like July 1, basically.
Sometimes they show up though,
Yes.
like because the regulations change and things, but mostly that's it.
Yeah, and I think we've done a better job of keeping up with the NISBA policy updates. We send our quarterly updates. So we've tried to stay on top of those to make sure that, if a law changed and we need to update the policy, we're doing it timely. Does that answer your question?
Very much. This
Okay.
is really more for me to understand the process. And obviously a website is a brilliant document. So we can update as you go. Although there may be some issues, suggest whatever the mechanism is having this happen, so that people don't get this information.
So do you think there's a way, because I'm trying to make sure that we're also doing this accessibility wise, because you just can't send off a PDFs to people and say, read these and sign off on them, right? Because we would be in trouble.
Yep.
So doing the portal idea, like the code of conduct, all the policies and then everything, the idea that you were talking about, how did you guys do it in other businesses?
So not business, this is another child's school.
Mm.
We would get, computer code of conduct, code of conduct, athletics code.
How would they send it though?
You would get an email saying you have like a task to complete essentially in your parent portal.
Yeah.
You go in, there'd be a message pending. You'd have to access a form. I think the form is like a required notifications. And then you would go in, review the policy, click.
And where do you review the policy? Is it like a quick link to the policy? Okay. That's-
Was it a quick link?
Within the form, like, so you get a form saying acknowledge.
You know where I'm going with this, right? Okay, thank you.
So
Yep.
you get essentially a form that you had to complete.
Yep.
A school form, but it would be electronic and it would include links to all the policies.
And that's linked to the website, so accessibility.
So what I think Frank is referring to, if I may, the reason these are all laid down the way they are, and you all know this, is they're in HTML format so that they can be read
Mhm.
by a screen.
Yep, by screen reader,
Yeah.
yep.
And so I think that to the degree that we can create that clearinghouse, because I know in, for example, board docs, it is still kind of not yours per se. I'm speaking of other board docs that I have visited, but kind of the PDF aroma. And so in terms of it, the district isn't responsible per se if those don't live on your site, but you are. So this is a really tidy way of us distributing that information. If this were the way that you chose to go, we would just have to make sure everything is kind of in one space and in HTML format.
I also think it would make it more likely that the policies get read.
It'll take a little bit of time to switch everything over to HTML because we got to switch them a little, right? Or no?
We have a lot of it done this way. Your code is in here,
Yeah.
your handbooks are in here, your safety plan is in here. And what we've done, and I actually even want to do with the subsection on this, with your permission, here, I'll show you, is create these directory links at the top so that it's real easy for folks to find this section, because these do become a running list of text sometimes by necessity. But even as you scroll down on this page, things are down there that are really important, that I want to be able to draw some folks' attention to with a just table of contents, basically. But we can do that. And that's basically what we've come to as the simplest way to give folks the information they need. I can look at your safety plan and see if it's also got that kind of a top where the subsections are easily navigatable. And if not, I'll make sure I go in and fix that up on the website. I don't see that that's problematic. It could align with your safety plan.
And also maybe even if we do the student handbooks too, put them up there as well.
Mhm.
So that way, and then we get them all up, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to get that done in a month. Right, but as you said, but I definitely think, no, but now I understand a little bit better. I was just trying to figure out how to comply with that and also make it accessible. So, because, if there's any watchdog groups or anyone trying to make sure that we're not doing it, because that does happen, that we're doing the accessibility component correctly.
I believe your handbooks are in here somewhere. I just don't.
They're not, because
they're not.
they're drafting them now,
They're
so.
okay. But they can be. Yes,
We can put them on each of the building level websites.
yeah, and a quick one, which would be really nice. And then, so ultimately, if you did move to, so I swear by everybody got that, basically a checklist, then
Mhm.
you're linking to things.
I like that.
Right out on the website, it would just be a list of links. Check, check, check. Yeah, it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, I like it.
And what ideas that you guys have about this process?
It's cumbersome. It has been. I know it's been a challenge.
We've gotten to where we are now from where we were. It's leaps and bounds.
I'm just wondering if it's an issue where it says that it's either it needs to be posted to the website or published like in a handbook or physically. Our default is that we do both, correct?
We haven't had a default,
Okay.
so we're working towards one. My concern with publishing everything to a handbook is then all the pertinent information kind of gets lost a little bit. So I like the idea that Artie's talking about is having that checklist, so it kind of leads people to the specific thing. Some of the important things we talked about, like the safe gun storage, right? We want that in the handbook as well as other places. So some of those things should go both, but I think we have to make a decision on prioritizing the need of which one goes where.
In terms of, I'm looking specifically at the document, when it says how communicated is that best practice, is that statutory, regulatory?
They hit statutory regulatory first, and then they use best practice afterwards. So, and it's the same with some of the policies that you'll see required, local, or so, and a lot of times, which I don't understand, is if it's law, you really don't need a policy for it because law is telling you have to do it anyways, right? So it's just regurgitating what the expectation of it is. But the way they do it is they first hit you with regulatory, statutory, these are the way you have to do it. And then they tell you the best practices as well.
It sounds like the right track. I mean, if you can get this form thing working, you can use it for other things like athletic sign up. Take a lot of tasks off of Joe's plate.
Mhm.
That you can use it for a lot of
Mhm.
things if we can get it working right and it'll administratively ease burdens.
Agreed.
Right?
All right. Anything else for communications?
No, I don't think so. Anything else for policy? I think this was all we were gonna.
This was it. Yeah. And then we have our next policy committee. We've switched, right? The timeframes. So I just want mornings. Yep.
Yeah, and I have not invited Joe Russo.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk to him because it's schedule. It's going to be schedule
Yeah,
component.
I was concerned. I
Yeah.
didn't think he could make it in the afternoons either.
Yeah. I've already asked Jessica to set up a time frame, because he's a 3-sport athlete.
Right.
I've asked Jessica to set up a bi-weekly meeting with Joe anyways and myself. So that way I can make sure that I'm sharing all the information. So we put it into his schedule when he has it. So if he can't make it to the committee meetings, at least then we can have a conversation about him and put him into the week.
Sounds great. And then as far as policy committee agenda items, I know we have the 2 policies we talked about at the retreat.
Yeah.
Then we have the NISBA updates in our ongoing list, which I circulated. to
Yeah.
everybody. Did both of you get the NISBA quarterly update? The email went out like within the last week or so.
I think so. That's accessible.
Yeah, you're good.
through
Thank you.
board docs, right, on the right
Yeah,
hand
you can go.
side.
Thank you very much, Kristen.
Yeah, pleasure.
I don't know, I've always wanted, thank you, Christine.
My absolute pleasure. It was nice to meet all of
Thank
you.
you.
too. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think
Have a good day.
You
Yeah,
looked
tweet.
at the email updates and then.
It should be there supposedly. I've never accessed it from that because I just,
I will admit, I've relied on Tricia to do a lot of the compiling of what we need to look at.
just before public leaves, Dan,
Oh.
I just wanted to make sure that I say one more thing, public leaves, some work stuff. We did talk about graduation requirements and that was the honor grad and all that. That was a big one that we were going to tackle this year with other people, the AI policy.
Yep.
That we have the draft and it's ready to go that I'll have for the next one. But that grad one was the big tackle that we were going to go over this year. And that's the honor graduate and the honorary class and all that. So that was the hot button topic we were going to talk
Yeah,
about
and
this year.
before we have our September meeting, I'll try and get a few minutes of your time to prioritize
Yeah.
the list. Because I know that's one we want to try.
That was one that we really wanted to
Focus
focus
on
on early.
And then Matt, you've raised media literacy. I'm kind of struggling with whether that's curriculum
think-
or here.
Yes,
Okay.
which would then come here second
Mm.
after it's.
Yeah.
I've already made significant, and I can share that with. So that the resources that we can- But yeah, I think you're completely. This is last stop,
Okay.
not first stop.
All right, good. Okay, so that'll help in kind of thinking about what we tackle.
Perfect.
First. Okay, great. All right, I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, I just gotta turn it off. Oh. God, I don't want- And